Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. We're playing some good old-fashioned mindless Doom. Can't go wrong. Well, you can go slightly wrong with just the pistol. Anyways, this week on this channel, we had more Dominions, to the surprise of absolutely no one. I recorded a lot of frickin' Dominions. We also had... what did we have? Wizardry. We had Wizardry, and then now we have Cataclysm, Last Generation. I'll just spoil it for you right now. There's only like 2 videos of Last Generation, so don't get your hopes up too much. But then I recorded some other Cataclysm stuff, so there's more. And then we also recorded, I also uploaded solo RPGs. And man, yeah, I've been recording a lot of that shit. In the last, like, 2 months, I've recorded, like, 85 solo videos. It's really just gotten out of hand. It's just, like, the only thing that interests me. And then by the time I come off of this this high of solo RPGs, I'll probably be back to Dominions again, and there's gonna be a Dominions and solo RPG channel. Yeah, I don't know, you know, just recording what I want to record, and that's about it. That's all I can say. It's sort of worrying, I'll admit. It's sort of worrying. Like my gaming tastes. I used to replay Final Fantasy VI every year. Once per year, I would replay through all of Final Fantasy VI and get like level 99 or the whole shebang and all that. And I always look forward to it. And now it's like, I don't know. I guess Archipelago does fill in that a bit because, like, I've done Archipelago runs fairly often of Final Fantasy VI. It's not quite the same sort of appeal, but I think that is part of what's preventing me from playing it. But also, like, I used to just be very into, like, new, modern, fresh games. You know, like a new AAA title would come out, and I'd be like, oh shit, it's got my name on it. And now it's just like, these things just pass right by, and like, yeah, okay. Metroid Prime 4 is like, yeah, okay, I don't know. But then it's also like I'm in a weird spot where I'm not just like, you know, obviously I like sort of thinkier, slower games, but I'm also just not addicted to all sorts of slow, thinky games. Yeah, I tried to get into like Crusader Kings and stuff like that. I looked at like Europa Universalis, and I don't know, maybe I'm not a Civ guy. I can't really get into Civilization at all. I'm just in a very weird spot as a gamer right now, I think. I guess there are something. Like I picked up Doom: The Dark Ages. I was looking forward to it. I picked it up. I liked it. So, you know, that's something at least. There's some things. But yeah, right now the only game that I'm really playing that's not a solo RPG that I'm recording is a game called Grimoire. I may have talked about this already, but it's a game that took like 20 years to make by this one guy who used to work at Surtech, and he worked on Wizardry 7, and so he just spent 20 years making his own version of Wizardry 7. And that's what I'm playing. And I like it. And it's like, I don't think there's any fixing me at this point. Now I'm just coded for this, like, old janky shit that no one else plays. Anyways, I was definitely thinking about recording a playthrough of Hacknet, though. I really would like to try that. That seems cool. And it's on Archipelago. So it should be interesting. Anyways, over on the Exploring series, Fractal Part 2. It was a shorter video because I didn't really want to work that hard during Christmas. And I'm glad for it. But then Part 3 is dropping tomorrow, the final part. And that one's like hour and 12 minutes. So it's definitely beefier. And that is the end of Fractal. And that is the end of my work year, because I am now on hiatus. And it's feeling fine. So yeah, over the next 4 weeks then, I'll be uploading compilation stuff, some of the bigger articles I worked on, and possibly a big old compilation. I'll look into it, of like 11 hours or something, or if I can get 8 hours of videos compiled together. I mean, obviously I can get 8 hours of videos compiled together. I can put like one SCP and it's 8 hours long, but I want like 8 hours of 8 hours of sub compilations compiled into one. We'll see. I don't know. I have to check. Also, we were talking last night on stream about Mangg's movies, which, if you're a longtime follower of the channel, is what I used to do movie reviews, sort of movie summaries, really, / reviews, but you already knew the review going in. They were all absolutely god-awful. Some of the worst movies to ever be produced. And I don't mean that in the way of, like, people thinks Matrix Revolutions or whatever is the worst movie ever. I mean, like, actual dog shit. Trash. Produced by trash studios on a budget of, like, $30. That just sort of hurt your soul to look at. Yeah, it was a fun time. But yeah, we were chatting about that last night, and I was looking over. Most of those are the only ones that are publicly visible on the internet right now are Axum, Part 1 and Part 2. The rest are either just private or are copyright blocked. And I thought it might be kind of interesting and kind of funny if I just took one of them specifically. I did one, it was a 4-parter, but that's because the parts were really short. Because I couldn't upload more than 15 minutes at the time. And it was on the Dunwich Horror. They did a Dunwich Horror. I mean, they've done a couple of ones. There was like the original one in the 70s or whatever, but this was like the remake. And so I did a 4-parter like rant basically about the Dunwich Horror. I think it might be interesting to combine those into that one specifically into one video and upload it, or yeah, onto the Exploring series, and just see what people's reaction is to it. I'll have to rewatch it myself. Yeah, god awful indeed. I don't know. I mean, those videos, as painful as they were to make and everything, it is kind of precious part of my past. I'd hate to just completely throw away on the wayside, never to be seen again. I would love a universe where I could just compile all Mangg's movies and just put them all out there as one massive video, but it would absolutely get copyright blocked. There's way too many copyrights involved there. So I'd have to strip out all the video clips, which is kind of painful. And would sort of... Some of those videos, especially during like the marathon I did, were basically like half those videos or more were just video clips from the movie of just like, yeah, look at how shit this is. It's the kind of thing where it's like, if I had an editor that edited my videos, and I had like some friends that would get together and watch them with me, like I wouldn't mind like actually doing that again, like watching more Mangg's movies and writing scripts and recording rants and stuff. But it's I don't have any part of that, so yeah, so it's just part of the past, but I'd rather maybe see them in the light rather than the dark. Let people know what shit is truly out there. The Dunwich Horror one specifically, because I have done a lot of Lovecraft stuff, so I think that might catch a few more views because of that. But anyways, other than that, it's gonna be pretty much nothing going on for the next month. Good old January hiatus. Yeah, should be good. I plan on doing some work on my computer situation. I need to finally... I don't really want to do it, but I think I really should do it. And that's reformat my work computer. I've been putting it off forever because... You know, this fan helped me set up all the audio systems and the plugins and everything like years back now. And I just haven't wanted to futz with it because I don't know what's going to get lost in the process. And then my audio, I'm going to come back and my audio is going to be shit. Or so I'm not going to know how to fix it. And I don't know how to reach out to that guy again because it was years ago. But yeah, it needs to be done because I can't actually use my work computer at the moment because it's so fucked. Like Adobe Premiere is just fucked. And so actually for the past couple months, I've been working on my personal computer, which I also don't like doing because I don't like mixing work stuff with personal stuff, like many people. But yeah, I think I gotta do it. And yeah, that's really about it. As for RPG sessions, oh boy, man, oh boy is what I gotta say. I decided to take a slight break from fantasy with the family and instead introduce them to Mothership, which is a sci-fi horror RPG. Very different change of pace. They were all on board just because I was interested in it, so they felt like, sure, yes, we will play this grand game with you. None of them are really into horror. None of them really are on top of, like, genre savviness when it comes to horror. So I really figured this would be like a 1 or a 2 shot, you know, and I kind of said that going in. Just a little change of pace before we begin a new fantasy campaign. So, you know, Mothership is a horror game, and the mechanics obviously heavily reflect that. The one of the most important aspects of the system is stress. Your characters just constantly build up stress as they go through these situations, and then that makes them more likely to panic at the big moments that happen. You know, when like the alien bursts out or whatever, they have a higher chance of panicking, and then things going really bad. So there's the stress system and the panic system, but then also it's a very lethal system. Characters can die pretty darn easily. And they're also not super capable characters. They struggle to accomplish a lot of tasks by design because they're under a lot of stress and panicking and all that sort of thing. So, you know, oftentimes if there's no time pressure or anything like that, obviously they're capable characters. I mean, these are scientists and Marines and stuff like that. Like they can do things if they're not under pressure, but obviously, it only really matters when you are under pressure, and then your chance for success is not stellar. And so I really emphasized over and over, it's like, okay, you're going to have some skills. You know, there's some skills in the game, like hacking or, being able to handle industrial equipment or firearms or what have you. And the skill system is somewhat free form. I'm never going to call for a skill check, which I think is actually incorrect. I think you could call for a skill check. It's meant to be flexible. There's 4 stats. You know, there's strength, speed, intellect, and combat. There's 4 different stats, and then there's a whole bunch of different skills. And I never know how to open this. Not sure what the trigger is. And so I said I'll never call for a stat check because I'll just call for an attribute check. And then you argue to me if a skill would apply here. So I'd call for an intellect check, and if you have hacking, then maybe you could apply hacking to it. That sort of thing. But I think the manual actually does say that you could, or maybe it wasn't the manual, maybe it was a discussion online, where you could roll, if you're trying to hack in the middle of combat or something, maybe it would be a speed stat or something. I don't know. I don't remember the exact discussion, but I think it's easier if it's just, I'll call for a stat and you apply your skills. And so I emphasize, it's really important for you to apply your skills to the rolls, because that's how you get a big bonus to the roll and makes you really much more likely to succeed on your roll, which is important. I really tried to emphasize this. I also said, you know, you're going to try to look for ways to get advantage on the roll as often as you can. You know, if you're going to shoot something, you want to shoot from high ground, or you want to try to ambush something, or you want to use a crowbar to open a tool instead of your bare hands. You know, anything that's not a skill that could be advantageous gives you advantage on the dice roll, which is really good and important. So we start, just to cut ahead a little bit, we start the thing, and they get up to, like, the first challenge of the module, which is getting this door open, this, like, airlock door. And my nephew's like, okay, there's a keypad, can I hack it? And I'm like, sure, roll your intellect. And he rolls his intellect. Now, he picked an android, so of course he has, like, a 75 intellect, so he actually has a really good chance of success, because it's a D100 roll under system. So he already had a really good chance of success, but so he rolls, he succeeds, and I'm like, okay, you didn't have any skills to apply to that? And then he tells me, oh, well, actually I picked computers and hacking. And to emphasize how egregious this is, he could only pick 2 skills total. He picked computers and hacking. The first thing his character does is hack a computer. And he doesn't mention his skills and apply them to the roll. I just couldn't believe, I couldn't set this up. I couldn't conceive of that much of a failure in my head if I tried. It was insane. I mean, again, he succeeded on the dice roll, which didn't really help, like, emphasize my point. But that's because he was doing the one thing that, you know, he's really built for, which is intellect tasks. But yeah, I really would have preferred he failed, so it could just set a perfect example to the rest of the group. Insane. Anyways. So, we got through character creation, which took quite a while, as always. I have to repeat multiple things over and over. And then I ran the module Another Bug Hunt, which is basically like the recommended introductory module. There's a couple others that are mentioned here and there, but Another Bug Hunt is by far the most popular. And there's all sorts of, like, fan-made material for it, and, you know, handouts and artwork and little visual displays for a VTT and stuff like that. So it felt the easiest one for me to run, and it's very classic. It's basically Aliens. It starts out more like Alien, and then it quickly goes into Aliens. So it starts out, you know, they go down to this base on this planet, this, like, research base that's completely abandoned and they've lost communication with, and they poke around and they end up coming across a single alien that's really monstrous and horrific. And then they continue on to the terraforming station, and they find, like, the other Marines there, and there's, like, just dozens of aliens now, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's a really classic scenario, which is why I picked it. Some of the other things with Mothership get really kind of weird and anomalous and SCP sort of stuff, you know? All sorts of, like, really out there alien life forms. And I figured, yeah, we really wanted something pretty basic. Standard aliens are pretty good. So yeah, they get down there, I give them the whole objective, you know, what they're doing, what they need to do, blah blah blah. They need to restore communications and meet up with the Marine commander and extract the science officer and the android's logic core and blah blah blah. And so they get down there, they get through the airlock, and then they go to the other door of the airlock, and they hack that one, And I'm like, okay, it flashes red. Because the module specifically says that the airlock door won't open until the other airlock door is closed. And this set Lego off on like a 3-minute angry rant about how fucking stupid this is and how stupid the designers of this are. And he was really just like, he flipped his lid about it, man. Because he's just like, why the fuck wouldn't the airlock door close automatically? Blah, blah, blah. He just like went on this whole thing. It's just like, I don't know, man. That's just what it tells me. Oh, God. So they get inside the facility. They start poking around, and they're being pretty cautious and pretty sneaky. And they hear kind of a thumping sound from elsewhere in the facility, but they don't want to go investigate it because they're scared of it. So they start poking around elsewhere, and they end up going through the vents, which seems like a really kind of odd choice. If you're investigating an alien situation where you're worried about aliens being loose and taking over the facility, isn't that exactly where the aliens would be, is in the vents? That seems like heading straight into danger in a very dangerous way. But they went through the vents, and the aliens are not in the vents yet. So they were lucky, and they moved around a little bit. It was really unnecessary, but they moved around through the vents. And my nephew continued to prove that he's not the brightest bulb in the shed. So they decided to send the android first, because the android has a specific thing where if anyone makes a fear check, you know, to see if they're afraid of something or not, and if they're around the android, they have to make the roll with disadvantage. They didn't really understand why, and to be honest, I wasn't really sure why either, other than just the android unnerves everyone or something, or it's like basically everyone is Ripley in Aliens, when she's like distrustful of the android on board. You know, like she doesn't trust Bishop at all because of her past experience. So maybe just everyone in this universe has had a bad experience with an android. I don't know. It doesn't really say. But they're like, fuck it, send the android. He doesn't really get afraid of anything, and we don't trust him. So we'll send him through the vents on his own. That's what they do. So he goes to the med bay through the vent. And he comes across some broken stuff and basically this big alien limb sitting on a stretcher, sitting on a medical bed. And he's like, oh, well, I'll go inspect it. I grab it. And so, of course, it starts thrashing. And it's like, I get you're an android, but just touching a random alien limb with your hands does not seem super smart. And yes, I suppose an android of that intellect would know that, right? But it's not the DM's job to play the sort of character police like that, right? And say like, well, I think your character would know to do, like, it's like, no, I'm not going to take away his player agency. If he's not smart enough to play a smart character, that's not my problem. That's his problem. That's how I feel. Because it's like, if you're playing a charismatic character in D&D, and you say something really dumb, during like a conversation, the DM's not going to be like, well, your character's really charismatic, so he wouldn't say something like that. He knows people better than that. Nope, you just, it's just the way it is. At the same token, it doesn't go the other way, where if you're playing a really dumb character and the player comes up with a good idea, the DM's like, well, your character wouldn't think of that. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. You know, so it's just, we just keep that stuff separate. Anyways. Right, so he gets cut a bit by the alien limb thrashing around. And then he sees nearby are some like alien larvae in these like containers, in these like clear glass jars floating in liquid. And he sees a big barrel full of hydrofluoric acid, like a big sort of, you know, medical grade container of it, a barrel of it, labeled as hydrofluoric acid. And so he does sort of put together, with the teams sort of discussing it with him, that, okay, they must be using this acid because the aliens are weak to it, which is correct, which was shockingly coherent of them. I will say, that was their finest moment, is putting that together. Rather than just asking, what the fuck is hydrofluoric acid? And I don't know, maybe they use it to clean the walls. I don't know what they think, really. But no, they weren't that bad. However, he then decides that he wants to try to pour some of the hydrofluoric acid out of the barrel onto the limb that's now on the floor. The alien limb on the floor. And I had to be very clear. And I was like, okay, well, how are you going to do this? And he's like, well, I'm just going to, like, tip the barrel over a bit. And I was like, well, let's see. We only make characters roll if there's, like, a significant chance of failure. And they're not skilled at the task. And perhaps if it had been the Marine doing it, I wouldn't have been on top of it like that. But it was specifically the android. And part of making your android is you specifically have to pick one of your other stats in order to lower by 10. And he had chosen strength. So he very specifically picked a weak character on purpose. And this was 100% a strength-based task of holding this barrel and just gently pouring it onto this limb on the floor without spilling it. And androids in this universe are not, like, super strong as far as I understand. And the opposite, actually. He had to sacrifice strength in order to have a high intellect. So they're really just, like, walking computers. So I was like, okay, roll your strength. And he rolls strength, and he has to get, like, a 15 or under or something, and he obviously doesn't. So I'm like, okay, you try to tip the barrel gingerly over onto the limb, but it slips out of your hands. You can't take the strain, and you drop it, and it just sort of spills all over the place and splashes all over your legs. And so I rolled a healthy amount of damage for an android's legs getting covered in hydrofluoric acid. I don't know enough about hydrofluoric acid to say that he would be immune because of some sort of, I don't know. Usually androids aren't immune to much, right? Or maybe poisonous gas or something like that. I don't know the anatomy wise, maybe they'd be immune to poisons and diseases or something of that nature. But I don't know, Mothership, it doesn't seem to go that way, because it's part of the plot of Another Bug Hunt is that the aliens have this like cry, this like shriek that they do that infects other people and basically implants them with a baby alien. And it says even androids are sort of susceptible to this. Like, they can be taken over by this, so yeah, I don't know the specifics of androids. I understand why androids are an option for a player character in a game based on, like, Alien and aliens and stuff, but I could see not allowing a PC to be an android and instead having, like, an NPC ally that goes with them that's an android, and they don't trust him because of that, and that sort of unnerves them and provides some of the other effects. But he also is, like, completely 100% loyal to the company and doesn't needlessly risk his life, so they can't just, like, send him into the ducks or something. Like, that's probably would be a better way to do it, in my opinion. But anyways. So yeah, he splashes hydrofluoric acid all over himself, takes a bunch of damage. He's like nearly dead. That's not even the dumbest thing that he did in the session, though. How about that? Eventually, they continue on. They go through some more vents, and they get to the garage. And the garage is where the thumping sound that they heard is coming from. Because there's a guy in there, a Marine, who's in a hole that he dug in the garage. And he's digging with a shovel. And he's facing away from them, and he just keeps digging. And they, like, kind of call out to him. They make a bit of noise, and he doesn't turn. And they get down out of the vent, and they, like, you know, mention something to him again, and he doesn't turn. And they're like, they're pretty sure this guy's a fucking alien, but they're not sure what to do about it. Like, there's a lot of discussion about how they should approach this situation, because this guy's an alien. Damn it. Fuck, man, it's a full reset. So they go back and forth, they're discussing, blah, blah, blah. None of the plans they're discussing are very good, of course, but they're discussing. And then eventually, my nephew's like, okay, I'm just gonna go over to him, and I'm just gonna poke him in the butt. That's what he said. And that's what he did. And I'm like, okay, I mean, there's no ambiguity there. I don't really need to clarify. You walk over and you poke him in the butt. And so, of course, as soon as that happens, the alien, like, bursts out of him. This massive, like, crab creature thing with multiple limbs. Looking like sort of an alien Doc Ock kind of thing. Bursts out of him, and his head is just, like, hanging off of his shoulders. And there's blood and viscera bursting out. And then we go into combat. And pretty much, yeah, the android just gets absolutely eviscerated. Like, if this were a movie, you'd say, this is the fucking dumbest horror movie I've ever seen. And it's just like, and it's so funny because I did this module solo. I haven't uploaded it yet. I won't upload it for a while. I got a lot of other stuff, but I did this module solo, or at least the first part of it. And during it, at that part, I was like, who would be dumb enough to just, like, walk up and touch this guy? Because the module says that when he gets touched, the alien bursts out. And I'm like, who's gonna be dumb enough to just fucking touch this alien and digging in this hole? It doesn't respond to anything. Well, turns out my nephew, one of my players that I DM for on a weekly basis. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that fantastic news? So, yeah, the android gets ripped apart, and Lego, playing a Marine, fires off some rounds from his submachine gun, and they just, like, bounce off of it, and they're like, oh, fuck. We need the hydrofluoric acid. And so that's where we ended for the day. So they have two grunts with them, two Marine grunts, so my nephew's gonna take over as one of them. But they're just like, well, can't he just, you know, make a new character and bring in a new person? And it's like, no, very, very specifically, he can't. You know, there's just a small group of people here involved. This isn't a funnel, like a DCC funnel where there's just this endless stream of peasants. Because the purpose of this is to invoke horror. If there's an endless stream of characters for you guys, there's no horror. And I'm not saying horror in the sense of they're going to be scared, but horror in the sense of they have to be very cautious if they want to survive and win and get through it. Whereas with a funnel, it can often just be a meat grinder because it's like, yeah, I don't give a shit. Throw this peasant in there and kill him. This is like, no, you have a very limited number of lives. They are precious. And maybe he didn't think that when he just touched the alien and he was just like, well, I'll just get a new character. This is fine. I don't know. that would probably be giving him too much credit, to be honest. So I don't know. But yeah, needless to say, incredibly dumb. And so that was our first session of Mothership. We will see how session 2 goes this week. I do not have super high hopes. If I had to guess, I'd say they're all going to die and we're going to start our Shadow Dark campaign. That would be my guess. I do think it's a very cool system. I love a lot of the, the aesthetics of it and the themes of it and everything. I'm a big horror guy. I would love to DM it for like a competent group of players. I don't know if I'd love to play it, but I probably wouldn't mind playing it. But I know from experience, I prefer DMing Call of Cthulhu to playing it. I prefer to be the mastermind behind the horror rather than being in the hot seat of horror, I guess. But yeah, I wouldn't mind playing Mothership, but DMing it for a competent group would be far more satisfying. But at the end, they all said they really liked it, and they're looking forward to the next session. So who knows, But yeah, no matter what, it's just a temporary thing. Because we got Shadow Dark on deck, and I'm preparing the campaign for that. So that's that. Fun times. That's pretty much it. Also, Lego and I started a new Shadow Dark thing on Tuesday. Wednesday. It was Wednesday. So our plan is to do Shadow Dark together every Wednesday now, and alternate between Shadow Dark and Archipelago. I did skip over a lot of rants by Lego during the Mothership session, where he basically, only the first part with the airlock was really a rant. After that, it was mostly just like this defeatist sort of whining, I guess I'd say, of just like, well, we're all dead, so it doesn't matter, none of this matters, we're just gonna die, so just go ahead, just do it, because we're all dead anyways. It's like, oh my god. No one wants to hear that. And then on Wednesday's Shadow Dark session we did, he did the same thing of just like, well, we're all just gonna die. Shadow Dark, everyone dies, so it doesn't matter. And then it's like, we went the whole session and we didn't lose any characters. So, I don't know, he falls into this sort of pessimistic attitude very easily. I mean, I'm a pessimist, but I'm at least sort of content about it. I don't whine about it. Anyways, so more Dominions this week, of course, until the end of time, because I do kind of want to record more Dominions and play that those Elden Ring nations and the Fire Emblem nations. More solo RPGs, because I still recorded more solo RPGs today. Can't stop that. Some Cataclysm coming your way this week, and over on the Exploring series, the last and final, the biggest part of Fractal, the explosive conclusion. Don't miss it. Please look forward to it. Otherwise, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg, and I'll see you fine folks next week.